I call the meeting to order. Good evening and welcome to the December 16th, 2025 business meeting of your Ashland City Council. Councilor Kaplan will offer the land acknowledgement.
We acknowledge and honor the Aboriginal people on whose ancestral homelands we work, the Ikirikutsin Band of the Shasta Nation, as well as the diverse and vibrant Native communities who make their home here today. We honor the first stewards in the Rogue Valley and the lands we love and depend on. Tribes with ancestral lands in and surrounding the geography of the Ashland watershed include the original past, present, and future indigenous inhabitants of the Shasta, Takelma, and Athabascan people. We also recognize and acknowledge the Shasta village of Quakaka, where the crow lights, that is now the Ashland City Plaza.
Thank you. And Councilor Dale will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Jordan.
Sherrill.
Here.
Dale.
Here.
Bloom.
Here.
Kaplan.
Here.
Duquesne.
Here.
Hanson.
Here.
Thank you.
You too.
I'm here too.
Okay.
And the Mayor Graham.
So for Mayor's announcements, the first thing is to simply share that if you have come to speak with us this evening, please make sure that you fill out one of the speaker request forms. They're on the wall on the back, and you'll put it in the tray right up here near the recorder's desk. Make sure when you fill that out that you indicate whether you are here to speak with us on a specific agenda item or if you have come to speak with us about something that is not on the agenda. If you are here to speak about something that is not on the agenda, you will want to make sure that you identify that you are here for public forum. We also ask that you have your speaker request form put into the recorder ahead of the beginning of that agenda item, as that will help us bring you up at the right time and also help us manage our time. So 3 important community anchors have celebrated key anniversaries this year, and each of these entities has made real contributions over the time that they've been part of our community. The First Presbyterian Church celebrated 150 years this year. Ashland Springs Hotel celebrated 100 years, and Oregon Shakespeare Festival celebrated 90. And I bring that up tonight because as we come to the end of this year, as we enter into the holiday season, we know that we have changes happening, changes upon us in our community, and that there are things that we are going to have to work through as we enter into the new year. But the fact that these community anchors and many others are still here tells us that we have worked through challenges before, and we have come out the other side stronger and more resilient. So I want to congratulate those 3 community organizations for their long-standing time in the community and all of the contributions that they have made, and just open up our meeting this evening with a reminder that we have seen change and challenge before. This last Sunday, I participated in the Ashland Sviatahirsk Aid Project's annual December fundraiser. And so you'll recall that we have a sister city in Sviatahirsk, Ukraine, and they have, we've been helping them through the work of our community partner, ASAP, for the last 2.5 years, I believe it is. And our community has been raising funds to send specific heavy machinery. We've sent a dump truck and a water truck, a variety of different things to help them manage their way through while dealing with the war that's happening there. And we came together again last Sunday, and one of the things that we did was we unveiled for the first time the framed Ukrainian flag that we have here at the City of Ashland. So the story behind that, you may have heard before, but I'll just recap it quickly, is that before the war, on the road into Sviatahirsk, they had Ukrainian flags lining both sides. So people would drive up through a set of about 30 Ukrainian flags. When the Russians came in, they tried to take those flags down, as you would, as invading forces often do. And the Ukrainians wouldn't let them. They never fully controlled that stretch of road because the Ukrainians would shoot at them and get in their way whenever they would try to take the flags down. And so when they were pushed back, when they pushed the Russians back, they took those flags down and they distributed them across Ukraine in museums all across the country. And they sent one to us. And so what we have done is we have framed it so that it will not be damaged. It's very fragile, and that framed flag is here with us tonight. So what I would like to do is ask Council Chair Dale to help me show the community the flag that will soon be hanging in the bottom of the City Hall. Okay, we move on now to the approval of minutes. Are there any changes to the minutes? The floor is open for a motion to approve the minutes. Councillor Henson?
I'd like to approve the minutes as is.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please, Jordan.
Sherrill,
Yes.
Dale,
Yes.
Bloom,
Yes.
Kaplan,
Yes.
Duquesne,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
I want to announce that the what had been posted as on our agenda has been shifted a little bit, in that we will be addressing the first reading of Ordinance 3275 at the public hearing section of the evening this evening. So if you were looking online at the original agenda, those two items have been switched. Okay, we are now to the consent agenda. There is one item on the consent agenda. Would any councilor like to remove it? The floor is open for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Yeah, I move approval.
Second?
Roll call, please, Jordan.
Hanson,
Yes.
Duquesne,
Yes.
Kaplan,
Yes.
Bloom,
Yes.
Dale,
Yes.
Sherrill.
Yes.
We are now to public forum. Okay, we have 11 people who have signed up to speak this evening, and so what we're going to do is give everyone 2 minutes for public forum. The way that public forum works is that you'll speak at this microphone here. If you have mobility issues and you need a microphone brought to you, then we will go ahead and do that. Just please let us know. There is a light signal at the podium. It'll tell you green when you still have plenty of time. When you have 20 seconds left, you'll hear the first buzzer, and that light signal will turn to yellow. And then when you're out of time, you'll hear the second buzzer or signal, and your light will turn to red. At that point, please finish the sentence that you're on so that we can move on to the next person who has come to address the council this evening. The first person who is signed up is, and feel free if you'd like to line up along the wall, but you don't have to. Steve Shapiro, followed by Paul Mozina, William Zentner, and Debbie Nicewander. Please tell us your name and the city in which you reside at the beginning of your testimony.
Hi, I'm Steve Shapiro. I live in the city of Ashland, and you probably know my wife, Lita Shapiro, but she's not here tonight, so it's all me. So Mayor and councilors, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa. In the season of giving, I would respectfully ask you to give serious thought to how you spend our money. when you approved raises, when you approved green bike lanes, when you and the Parks Commission approved funding for more parks, when you approved solo trash cans, did you sit back and say to yourselves, can the people of Ashland afford this? Did you ask yourselves, what are the ongoing costs of maintenance? Did you think about the folks in the community who can't afford to put food on their tables? Did you ask yourselves, could the money I'm allocating be better spent for those less fortunate than I? Are you thinking that we have a pile of money? How can we spend it without thinking, is this really needed? Is there a better way to spend the people's money? I have a radical idea that I bet never crossed your minds. Can we figure out a way to have Grand Terrace complex all be affordable housing? Can can we find wealthy people who live in the hills of Ashland donate money needed to fund the building and the ongoing costs for low-income housing? Maybe instead of 210 units, we could design and build 400 units and subsidize the rent for those who can't afford it. It's time to think outside the box, to look beyond yourselves, to think about how you can serve the people, all the people. Happy holidays.
Thank you.
My name is Paul Mozina. I live in Ashland. I asked you all a simple question. Did the council hold the June 3rd public hearing on the 2025-2027 budget document as approved by the Citizens Budget Committee? Or did you hold the hearing on the budget document you amended at the May 19th study session? None of you answered the question. Are you hiding behind an email that the city attorney sent me on July 2nd as if that was the definitive answer to any issues I raised? Here's what City Attorney Paitella said in that email, quote, per budget law, after the Budget Committee has approved the budget and a public hearing was held, the City Council can make changes to the budget that was approved when adopting the budget, quote. Paitella correctly summarizes the order of events as explained in ORS 294.453, which requires the public hearing to be on the budget document as approved by the Citizens Budget Committee, but that is not what you did. He goes on to explain how you violated that law. Quote, there was no need for a motion to amend the budget because it was already discussed in prior sessions and included in the budget they were presented to vote on. Council more than sufficiently discussed the change in previous council sessions and right before the public hearing. So it was clear and transparent before they voted on the adopted budget. And, end quote. An objective, honest person examining these statements would conclude that the public hearing was held on the budget document as amended by you, not as approved by the Citizens Budget Committee, which violates ORS 294.453. But you are refusing to admit that you made a mistake. You're hiding behind the fallacious reasoning of the city attorney to avoid acknowledging what you did. You're being dishonest, and you violated your oath of office.
Thank you. William Zentner, followed by Debbie Nicewander, and then Sharon Bryson, and Denise Gerke.
Hi, my name is William Zentner. I live in Ashland. Been here for 8 years. I'd like to speak on the glyphosate issue being sprayed in public property. It's a toxic carcinogenic chemical. And when I moved to Ashland, I did not expect, being a bee city and a tree city and environmentally friendly city, that this product would be sprayed in public. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Debbie Nicewander, and I'm here to talk about the process of determining whether the folks have to move off the night lawn in the mornings. On November 30th, and then again on December 15th, it was a discretionary call for the folks to move off the lawn. It rained all day. It causes a lot of distress, a lot of anxiety, and these folks are simply trying to survive. And the chief ended up having to allow the folks to come back on the lawn. If you go out there right now, it is a muddy, wet swamp. So we need to come up with a better way of determining these things. Some officers, if it's not raining at that very moment, they don't take into consideration what's going to happen 2 hours from now. Also, during emergency inclement weather, when the temperatures are 32 and below or raining, snowing, whatever, it should be automatically that these folks don't have to come off the lawn. The tarps are frozen, tents are frozen, zippers are frozen, and it's just too damn cold. And we still make them come off the lawn. This is cruel, unusual punishment. There's been talk about some civil disobedience. We don't want it to get to that. We want to work together. We got to make a change. If that happens, I stand in solidarity with the group. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Denise Skirke. As you know, homelessness is not a problem that will disappear overnight. It is a growing crisis driven by economic changes such as automation, stagnant wages, and rising living costs. In light of this, I've used my knowledge from past careers in radiology, real estate, and as an inventor of apicotherapy Venturi technology to analyze potential solutions. First, a major issue I've observed is the time-consuming daily routine of setting up and tearing down tents. This process takes around 3 hours each day, time that could be better spent on health, wellness, or accessing services that help people transition off the night lawn and into permanent housing. As we approach the end of the shelter season on April 1st, there may not be enough room to accommodate those who return to the night lawn. I understand that the night lawn may be an eyesore for passersby, for those who use Garfield Park, but just like anyone else, we can't carry our entire lives with us everywhere we go. I propose a gate along the open space to create a safer, more organized area for our belongings. Additionally, a rain and snow cover over the picnic tables would provide shelter and help with basic needs like food, coffee, and water. These small changes can make a huge difference. Second, I've conducted a small survey within a 5-mile radius of the night lawn and found approximately 5 to 10 empty rental properties based on current market rates. I've calculated the cost of a 1-bedroom apartment and 2-bedroom unit for families or couples. If we redirected some of the grant funds to secure those vacant homes for individuals and families currently on the night lawn, we would be providing stable long-term housing options. This would not only support the local housing market, but also allow residents more privacy, space, and time to receive the coaching and resources necessary to rebuild their lives. My calculations also prove that it's cheaper than shelters and night lawns, and those in need are sheltered for 1 to 2 years. Law enforcement's top priorities should be identifying and dismantling suppliers of illegal substances, employment traffickers, rather than targeting users, victims, or job seekers. So shifting law enforcement focus towards major criminal networks would be more efficient and cost-effective and beneficial in addressing systemic issues such as homelessness. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sharon Bryson. I'm addressing the council and mayor. I stand before you with a heavy heart. The way I see it, our town is coming apart at the seams at the helm of this governing body. The list of deteriorations is long. I don't need to bring it to your attention of the ways the management and council is failing our community, but I want to read a recent quote that was in the Ashland News, and it was regarding Asante and Asante and the city of Ashland. The quote goes like this: "The city is committed to delivering responsive, high-quality services that promote public safety, environmental stewardship, and community well-being," end quote. I would like to think that's your mission. It maybe is. But I ask you to please speak the truth. This quote brings me to the topic I'm most upset by. The topic is the parks approving the use of glyphosate in our neighborhoods. I want an immediate stop to the use of glyphosate. The last information I have is Parks Commission approved glyphosate up to 4 times a year from March through October, although the last use was 11/26. I'm not quite sure about that. March will come very soon. And between now and then, alternatives need to be brought forward and practiced with safety of all involved. Yes, I understand the parks is under the jurisdiction, has their own jurisdiction, but to me that seems like it's real easy for the commission or for the council to look the other way. So anyway, I go on and on to say that, you know what, Parks is controlling the city. Please, as councilors, come forth, be strong, tell them to stop.
Thank you. Next, we have Vincent Doyle, followed by Angelina McLean, Vicki Simpson, and Karen Potts.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Vince Doyle. I'm a resident of Ashland. It's kind of funny. I listened to your intro and the recognition of our local indigenous people that lived here. And the reason I'm here is on the glyphosate issue. But listening to that, it just kind of took me back into envisioning, you know, what the indigenous people here would want us to do. Would they want us to spray glyphosate, a known carcinogenic, you know, and put it into the environment? You know, and it kind of left me with that question, and I kind of throw it at you folks. And anyway, with that being said, I'm also a member of the Southern Oregon Beekeepers Association. I am a beekeeper. Ashland is a Bee City USA affiliate, a program that encourages cities to support pollinators. The city's commitments include creating pollinator-friendly gardens, reducing pesticides, and use and raising public awareness. So this excerpt I'm going to read next actually came from a research paper that was done in 2018 and on the impacts of glyphosate on pollinators, honeybees in general. Glyphosate harms bees by disrupting their gut microbiome, weakening their immune system, and impairing their nervous and cognitive functions. This can lead to increased susceptibility to pathogens, also navigational problems, and ultimately a higher risk of death and colony collapse. Glyphosate is a known carcinogenic and is banned in many countries in Europe. I urge you folks, the city, to discontinue the use of glyphosate and research some good, safe alternatives. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Angelina McLean. I live in Ashland. I spoke on the glyphosate issue at the last December 2nd council meeting and December 3rd Parks meeting as well. If you're not already aware, there's a petition on change.org to the city to halt the glyphosate spraying in the medians and to revisit our commitment to using the least harmful landscape management practices on the city land. The petition has gotten over 350 signatures in less than a week, so I believe this speaks to the importance of this issue for our residents and about the values that are held in Ashland. I recently learned that 15 years ago, concerned citizens worked with city leaders to create a more robust pesticide policy, and then soon after BCD USA was created, a lot of time and work went into that process, and I feel that we should be strengthening those policies instead of kind of watching the erosion of them happen right now. There are many examples of municipalities successfully transitioning away from glyphosate and chemical herbicide use, and we can use those frameworks to reconsider and strengthen our policies. So just 2 examples. One is Hawaii County Public Works stopped spraying glyphosate-based herbicides in 2023. That was for all their roadsides and drainage ditches, et cetera. Eugene, Oregon has had a moratorium on glyphosate use since 2019. And there's a lot of other examples. So I know we have a lot of issues facing us, but I believe we have the opportunity to get back on track with this one. We have a lot of resources and community organizations here that would probably be very willing to help. So please consider moving back in the direction that Ashland citizens want to go on this issue and help us stop the glyphosate spraying. Thank you.
Thank you. Vicki Simpson, then Karen Potts, Thane Tolas, and then there's one that is difficult to read. I can't make it out, so if you signed up, you'll be the fourth one in line, and I haven't called your name. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, my name's Vicki Simpson, and thank you all for doing the hard work of guiding our city. 2 minutes is pretty short, so I'm going to have to skip a lot, including a wonderful quote by Lewis Mumford. But cutting to the chase, our federal government right now is moving to take away any local control we do have over the installment of cell towers and antennas through the FCC proposed rules that they have out now and 7 bills in Congress, kind of a pincher move. I have an article here written in 1986, 40 years ago, that was a similar combination of federal government overreach along with industry for the nuclear industry that wanted to disperse all of their waste instead of housing it someplace, so they were going to irradiate food. So that word irradiating for preservation of food came into use. Also, the aluminum industry 10 years or 15 years before that had a lot of fluoride waste, so they found a study that showed teeth hardened with fluoride, and that was kind of true, but they didn't show it had mutagenic properties too, and they managed to get fluoride in our water systems. I see a real parallel with the proliferation of our cell towers and cell antennas, and the push now with 5G is to have it like antennas every 450 to 700 feet from each other, saying it's necessary to do that. It's a control masquerading as a help to get broadband to everybody in the country. So with that, I will quote Lewis Mumford, who said in 1986, "Why do we let these madmen go on with their game without raising our voices? Why do we keep our glassy calm in the face of this danger? Everything," this is quoting me, "everything has a level of tolerance that we're exposed to. And right now we're testing our tolerance for the exponential rise of wireless radiation all around us." So I think I made my point, so thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I am Karen Potts, and I live in Ashland. I want to talk about some federal telecommunications actions that together threaten community and environmental health, safety, privacy, property values, and the basic right of residents to decide what belongs in their own neighborhoods. We have to say no to this federal overreach. The Federal Communications Commission, or FCC, is proposing new rules to allow industry to place cell towers and antennas virtually anywhere in America and as close together as they want, even when there is no gap in coverage, saying they must do it for 5G. You know, the millimeter wave size just right to cook and kill our pollinators. If that FCC ruling should be highly opposed by the people, 7 congressional bills are being sent through committees right now to achieve the same goal, which to override local zoning, erase public participation, and force dense wireless infrastructure into residential areas. This is federal control masquerading as a heartfelt way to build out America's broadband connectivity. We have flyers with links that help you to make your own comments to the FCC and links with ways to contact your DC senators and representatives as the situation evolves. Don't give up the few protections that we have been able to hold on to. Take action now. Thank you, and thank you for serving as our city councilors.
Thank you.
Thane Tulsis, resident of Ashland. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I want to acknowledge that the city has made changes to the dusk to dawn rules, including extending hours to 8:30 a.m. and allowing entry at 4:30 p.m. I appreciate that effort. However, I want to explain a serious ongoing issue with the requirement that camps must still be fully torn down every morning, regardless of weather conditions. Many mornings, we wake up to heavy fog, rain, or freezing temperatures. Our tents, bedding, and clothing are soaked or frozen solid. We are then required to pack everything up immediately with no time or place to dry our belongings. This causes real harm. Wet gear gets ruined, people get sick, and survival becomes harder, not easier. Carrying wet or frozen belongings all day makes it extremely difficult to look for work, attend appointments, or take steps towards stability. I'm asking the council to consider a reasonable revision, allow limited flexibility for camps to remain set up during the day, especially during wet or frozen weather, or establish designated areas where tents can stay in place instead of requiring daily teardown. Other nearby cities already allow this, and it helps people focus on moving forward instead of spending all their energy just setting up and tearing down shelter. This is not about avoiding rules, it's about creating rules that recognize real conditions and support people in getting back on their feet. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Our last speaker indicated that they wanted to talk about the night lawn during public forum, but I am not able to read the name. If anyone else is here who signed up to speak about the night lawn, this would be your time. And please tell us your name and the city in which you reside.
Hi, I'll start off now. My name is Nehemiah Bowers, and I've been a resident of Ashland for about 6 months now. And the night lawn rules have really confuddled me and made me confused because I thought it was a place we can all go to be treated like people. It has not been so. My dog isn't even treated with the respect that a human being should be treated with. He gets cold in the morning, he gets raindrops on him, and his fur mats. And that's the little of it. Like all of our gear, all of our tents, our poles break in the freezing cold. So, and the rules have been really back and forth. Different officers say different things. Different people say different things. I guess what I'm really asking for is just some kind of clarity and like a little bit of human decency from everybody in this city, for people who aren't from here but come here for sanctity and for some kind of peace, some kind of like relent from all the things that life throws at us every day. We seek that out and we want it here, and it's not getting given to us. And he's not a child, he's not a human child, but he is a person to me. He's a dog. He's a human life. He's a person. He lives, and I want some peace and clarity on what is allowed and what's not allowed. Because right now, what's not allowed is for us to live and for us to feel human. We don't feel human, and we feel dragged down. I live on the night lawn, and it does not feel like a place where I can go comfortably and feel like a person. And then we go to the parks, and we're treated like garbage. So there's nowhere for us to really go. And we just want to live peacefully. Me and my dog included, sorry. Thank you, that's all I have to say.
Thank you. We are now to the public hearing. The first reading of Ordinance 3275, amending Chapter 10.68, Public Parks to include provisions for special use permitted activity.
So Jordan's going to take this one tonight. So we're looking to change Chapter 10.68 around allowing some special use for permitted activity. This is coming after we've had an expansion of how we're using our parks for economic purposes. And so with that, I'll let Jordan take it away.
All right, hello, Council. City Manager Cota did a great summary, but I'm here to help answer any questions you all may have about this specific ordinance.
Would you, just for the folks at home who maybe are not accessing their packet right now online, could you just give a brief overview of what this involves?
Yeah. So what this ordinance does is it changes the rules of what we allow via special permit within our park system. So things like we have a tree climbing competition every year. This would allow that tree climbing competition to happen per a special use permit. Right now, it's an unpermitted activity. Other things like using our reservoir for a swim competition, that too could fall under a special event permit topic area. So what this ordinance really does is it defines certain activities that are currently prohibited in the park and allows them via the special event permit process.
And if I could just one point of clarification, it makes it more of an administrative process moving forward. So the park director or their designee can approve that permit instead of having to bring it to the Parks Commission every time to allow for permitting. Given the rate at which our public body meets, that doesn't always work with special events when they're looking at the timing of their event. So this will help speed that process up as well.
Very
Thank
good.
you. Yes.
Questions? Councillor Duquesne.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Jordan. So I was reading through all of these 10.68 point whatever, and looking through the first one, 10.68.060, it's a dollar amount needed, and it doesn't say what that dollar amount is, and it's unpermitted commercial activities, just like you mentioned, events and people selling things and things like that. That makes sense, but it doesn't have any dollar amount. And I understand if somebody wants to sell popcorn in the park is one thing, somebody wants to have an event in the park, it's another. So the cost might be different, but there was no ballpark, there was no anything there.
And pardon me, I don't have the language right in front of me since it's on that screen over there. But I do know for right now it's set per the miscellaneous fee book, and it's a $30 charge per booth is the way that it's administered right now.
And so I do remember that miscellaneous list. So then it does have the actual cost amount in there. Okay, well, and everything else makes sense, so yeah,
Great.
Thank you, Jordan.
Of course.
Other questions of staff?
Do you know I have another one?
Go ahead.
So something that I just wanted to ask Jordan, and maybe what I get asked a lot, and I didn't see it as part of this list, but it's 10.68.200. It's about dogs being allowed in the park. And a lot of times people ask, you know, they're in Lithia Park, there's a dog in the park. And they're like, Gina, there's a dog in the park. And I'm like, so what's going on with the dogs in Lithia Park?
So dogs aren't allowed in Lithia Park.
Yeah.
Dogs aren't allowed in many of our parks due to the wildlife. So on our website, you can find a clear designation of what parks allow dogs versus which ones don't. So you can report someone who has a dog in the park if that is your desire. But technically they're not allowed. So if one of our employees or our Parks Patrol were to see them, they would be requested to exit.
Well, and you know something that I remember when I first moved here, I saw signs, no dogs allowed in the park, in Lithia Park. Are those, they're still there?
They are still there, and we actually added some more sandwich board signs to help people know why.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I open the public hearing. Has anyone signed up to speak to us this evening on this issue? Okay, I close the public hearing. Any final questions of staff? Okay, the floor is open for a motion. Councillor Dale.
Thank you. I move to approve first reading of Ordinance 3275, amending Chapter 10.68 Public Parks to include provisions for special use permitted activity.
Is there a second? Councillor Dale.
No, just thank you very much for the just adding to government efficiency. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Councillor Hanson.
Yeah, nothing else substantive to add. Just thank you for continuing this evolution, and I look forward to more small events and other things inside the box.
Councillor Duquesne.
Yes, I just wanted to comment, like I said earlier, I believe that all of these are in order, but I didn't support the miscellaneous fee list, so I can't support this. In good faith.
Any other discussion? I would just also add that this is the kind of thing that we need to keep doing as we work to make that year-round cycle and make it easier for people to have the events that will bring visitors to town and will help to strengthen our local economy, at least our local visitor economy. So very glad to see yet another sort of cleaning up and simplifying of the process at the city. If there is no further discussion, roll call please, Jordan.
Sherrill?
Yes.
Dale?
Yes.
Bloom?
Yes.
Kaplan?
Yes.
Duquesne?
No.
Hanson?
Yes.
We are now to ordinance resolutions and contracts, the second reading of ordinance language change set 1.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council. So these are going to be a bunch of second readings. I'll start with the second reading of Ordinance 3260, an ordinance removing 2.29.020 subsection P to reduce redundancy. No changes since the first reading. If there are any questions, happy to answer.
Any questions for staff? Jordan, has anyone signed up to speak with us about this agenda item?
We have received no other speaker request form on any other agenda item.
All right, if there is no further discussion or questions, the floor is open for a motion. Councilor Dale.
I'll start with the first one. I move to approve the second reading of Ordinance 3260, an ordinance removing 2.29.020P to reduce redundancy.
Second.
Councilor Dale?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councilor Sherrill? Any further discussion? Roll call, please. Jordan?
Sherrill?
Yes.
Dale?
Yes.
Bloom?
Yes.
Kaplan?
Yes.
Duquesne?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes. Okay, this is now the second reading of Ordinance 3262, an ordinance updating 2.54.070 to allow for electronic payments of surplus property.
Are there
No
any
changes.
questions of staff? Okay, the floor is open for a motion. Councilor Sherrill?
Thanks, Mayor. I move to approve second reading of the following ordinance, 3262, an ordinance updating 2.54.070 to allow for electronic payments of surplus property.
Is there a second? Councilor Sherrill, would you care to speak to your motion?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councilor Kaplan? Any further discussion? Roll call, please, Jordan.
Sherrill?
Yes.
Dale?
Yes.
Bloom?
Yes.
Kaplan?
Yes.
Duquesne?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
All right, moving on to second reading of Ordinance number 3266, an ordinance updating Chapter 6.04 so that business license fees are set by resolution.
Are there any questions of staff? The floor is open for a motion. Councilor Hanson?
Thanks, Mayor. I'll take this one. I move to approve second reading of 3266, an ordinance updating Chapter 6.04 so that business license fees are set by resolution.
Is there a second? Councilor Hanson, would you care to speak? Councilor Bloom, would you care to speak?
No.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please, Jordan.
Hanson?
Yes.
Duquesne?
Yes.
Kaplan?
Yes.
Bloom?
Yes.
Dale?
Yes.
Sherrill?
Yes.
Okay, this is the second reading of Ordinance 3274, an ordinance updating 6.42.030 through .050 to reflect current tobacco licensure standards.
Are there any questions? Floor is open for a motion. Councilor Bloom?
Yeah, I move approval of Ordinance 3274, an ordinance updating 6.42.030 through 050 to reflect current tobacco licensure standards.
Is there a second?
Second.
Councilor Bloom?
No.
Councilor Dale?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please, Jordan.
Hanson?
Yes.
Duquesne?
Yes.
Kaplan?
Yes.
Bloom?
Yes.
Dale?
Yes.
Sherrill?
Yes.
All right, second reading of Ordinance 3277, an ordinance updating 14.12.020 so fees are set by resolution.
Are there any further questions of staff? The floor is open for a motion. Councilor Kaplan?
I move to approve second reading of Ordinance 3277, ordinance updating 14.12.020 so fees are set by resolution.
Is there a second? Councilor Kaplan?
No.
Councilor Bloom? Any further discussion? Roll call, please, Jordan.
Sherrill?
Yes.
Dale?
Yes.
Bloom?
Yes.
Kaplan?
Yes.
Duquesne?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
So second reading of ordinance 3278, an ordinance updating 14.12.050D to correct for the proper agency name.
Any questions of staff? The floor is open for a motion. Counselor Dale?
I move to approve second reading of 3278, an ordinance updating 14.12.050.d to correct for the proper agency name.
Is there a second? Counselor Hanson. Counselor Dale?
No, thank you.
Counselor Hanson. Any further discussion? Roll call, please, Jordan.
Sherrill?
Yes.
Dale?
Yes.
Bloom?
Yes.
Kaplan?
Yes.
Duquesne?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
All right, so moving on to a second reading of ordinance 3279, an ordinance updating 14.12.060.b.1, so fees are set by resolution.
Counselor Sherrill? Or, I'm sorry, are there any questions? The floor is open for a motion. Oh, did you have a question, Counselor Duquesne?
Yes, I did. I looked at this, and so this means the cost for testing meters would be set by resolution. There's no set fee, right?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Floor is open for a motion. Counselor Sherrill?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve second reading of 3279, an ordinance updating 14.12.060.b.1, so fees are set by resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
Counselor Sherrill?
No, thank you.
Counselor Dale?
No, thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please, Jordan.
Sherrill?
Yes.
Dale?
Yes.
Bloom?
Yes.
Kaplan?
Yes.
Duquesne?
No.
And Hanson?
Yes.
Okay, so second reading of ordinance 3280, an ordinance updating 14.12.080 to correct for proper ORS reference.
Any further questions of staff? Floor is open for a motion. Counselor Hanson?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve second reading of 3280, an ordinance updating 14.12.080 to correct for the proper ORS reference.
There a second? Counselor Bloom? Counselor Hanson? Counselor Bloom?
No.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please, Jordan.
Sherrill?
Yes.
Dale?
Yes.
Bloom?
Yes.
Kaplan?
Yes.
Duquesne?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
All right, moving on to the second reading of ordinance 3281, an ordinance updating 14.16.020 to align with the state ORS.
Any questions of staff? The floor is open for a motion. Counselor Bloom?
I move approval of ordinance 3281, an ordinance updating 14.16.020 to align with state ORS.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Counselor Bloom?
No.
Counselor Duquesne?
No.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please, Jordan.
Sherrill?
Yes.
Dale?
Yes.
Bloom?
Yes.
Kaplan?
Yes.
Duquesne?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
Thank you all. Moving on now to unfinished business, the Citywide Strategic Plan. Sabrina?
Yes, this is just to fill you in with the strategic plan process that we have signed a contract with SSW to assist us with the strategic plan. We have a kickoff meeting on Thursday with them. And since we're on a tight timeline, we will turn around and be looking to schedule time with council between you and the consultants as we kick things off. And so in your packet, you have their submittal, their proposal for the project, as well as the contract. And so we'll be working with them through the whole process to scope out what we need done and who's going to be involved, and then how we will engage with the public, and then the final report as well. And so I just wanted you all to see that progress, and that's all I have.
Your questions, Councillor Bloom.
Yeah, just a couple quick ones, Sabrina. Thank you. We kind of talked about this already, so it's really just kind of on the record, I guess. We're going to have our initial meeting, which I think is great. But if you could talk to the consultants about us kind of maybe having a couple of follow-ups throughout the process as a council to kind of see where things are going, to kind of give our insight, issue spot, things like that. I mean, who knows? There could be a variety of reasons why. But just having a check-in more than just at the beginning and then when we finalize would be helpful. So if you could talk to them about that,
Sure.
I would appreciate that. And then secondary to that, obviously we're having kind of broader conversations around the budget and where things are going. I imagine that this is obviously going to be a drawn out process. It's not going to happen in 2-3 months. And I'm going to be presumptuous here that you'll be including updated projections for the budget based on what we're deciding in terms of cuts, revenue, what that looks like, to help them kind of have the big picture, right, of what the community is looking for.
Yeah, I think it's important. So the community will have their process, but we have to continue serving the community with what we do, as well as, budget will be coming up and things like that. So there's going to be several simultaneous things happening at the same time, but that doesn't mean they can't work together as we develop that. I think it's important to understand that, strategic plans are very high level. Like, this is where the community is looking for more resources to be put or more emphasis. And a lot of the follow-up questions are going to be, okay, how do we potentially reprioritize our resources or look at how we're doing things based on that feedback, which will hopefully help us as we develop the budget. And some other things that we'll be doing, we're evaluating the feedback that we got from council from the retreat in terms of revenue, as well as service level review for some of our items. And so that will be happening separate from the strategic plan because you've already put that in motion. And so all of those things will be happening at the same time.
Cool. So quick follow-up. So those levers that we've identified will be kind of incorporated into their analysis of where we are. The community wants X, Y, and Z. We know the council recognizes X, Y, and Z.
Sure.
And so we're kind of incorporating that all into what that final plan will look like.
Yeah, I think also, pending kind of the viability of those options, right? It will depend, right,
Sure.
on that. So I think it's, we'll be doing that, and we'll be meeting with the consultants on a regular basis, kind of filling them in on other things that are happening so they can keep that in mind as they engage with the community. The other things I want to work with a consultant are is ensuring that we're getting a broad range of feedback. So working with the school district, working with SOU, working with OSF, so our other partners in the community, to make sure we're meeting people where they're at to get that feedback. So I'm going to look for the consultants to help us craft the best way to do that, depending on who we're looking to get that feedback from.
Great. And then one last follow-up, and this is really just for the public. I mean, I had somebody reach out to me and say, did you know that this is happening? And there's a concern. I think for the last 2 years, we've been talking about needing a strategic plan. We've known that this is in the works. It's been in the hopper. It's budgeted for. And for clarity, that this strategic plan, though relates to the budget, right, and what we're talking about long-term and the fiscal nature of the city, it is separate from that. It is, they work together, but it is its own kind of separate entity. And if you could kind of elaborate on that so people understand that this isn't us saying, oh, we have a budget problem, last minute we're gonna pay $80,000 for a consultant to come and tell us that we have a problem that we already know we have. This is a separate thing.
Yes, to your point. So this was budgeted in the city manager's budget through the budget process, and council's been in agreement with that process for a long time. So I think, with the strategic plan, the thing to think about is it's kind of aspirational to some element. It's kind of where we would like to see ourselves, and there's going to be steps that need to be taken to move in that direction. But I think we're also very keenly aware, especially now, that things are shifting rapidly that we're having to respond to. And so we may have a strategic plan with the intent in 5 years we're going to be at these benchmarks and need to adjust. And that's the nature of the beast with kind of what we do. And so, I think it's really like kind of who do we want to be when we grow up kind of question, right? Like, what is this community interested in maintaining in terms of service and quality of life, and where that focus is, versus maybe what are some things that we're doing that should be less of a focus than the last time we've had this kind of engagement. So that's really the point. And so we're still going to have to budget. We're still going to have a balanced budget. We're still going to, run our projections and keep an eye on our current budget, and all of that's going to keep happening. But this will hopefully provide framework for this council and the next council of kind of this is where we're moving and provide that consistent way through to keep working towards community-wide goals.
Thanks, Sabrina.
Councilor Dale.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'd just like to kind of just tag on to what Councilor Bloom was saying there at the end is, you're more than welcome to expand on it, but to both of your point, this was clearly outlined and articulated in the 25-27 budget and into their city manager's office, and then in the preamble and the budget message is this has been on our radar for at least 18 months, and we clearly outline it and say what we're doing, why we budgeted for it, how we're budgeting. But I guess I would just take a moment here to say to the broader audience that this is a great time to educate yourself with the finances, with how the City of Ashland operates. And as recently as today, I received an email from someone who was asking how they can learn more about financial documents, how the city works financially. And so pointed that all of those documentations are clearly on the finance website. You can find the annual reports, the monthly reports, you can find the budget documents. And a follow-up question was, well, how do I ask questions? Well, you can, email the city, you can email counselors. Some of us will try to hop in and help as best we can. And then just finally to say there's a difference there between policy decisions and what the body decides is how to best, we'll say, utilized funds and so forth and is different from kind of the mechanics of how the budget works. Would that kind of be a fair way to say that? And maybe you could add on to where, if anybody had questions, what the best way to do that be if I didn't articulate all of them.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We also have our OLLI courses that we recorded, and one is specifically on finance. I'm not going to say we're the most exciting people on camera, but the information is there. So that's another good resource. But yeah, our website, we have our curiosity page where you can put questions that we respond to. So yeah, any of those ways are great.
So I have Councilor Duquesne.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to ask you a quick question. You said you mentioned people like the school district and OSF and working with them. And in here it says subject matter experts being brought in. Are those some of the subject matter experts you are talking about to be at the table through this process?
Well, I think it's our partners. It's also subject matter experts in our staff in terms of service delivery, as well as the consultants who do strategic planning all over.
And if I may really quick, something that Councilor Bloom brought up, great question, is bringing us into the fold. How often will that be?
I think I'll know more about that on Thursday after we meet with them.
Okay. Yeah, because I just think it's important that everybody's included. Because what we've all mentioned before so many times, people will come and ask us questions and we might not have an answer for them, but just to be able to say it's in the works or in process or something like that, I think is pretty important.
Yeah, and I think to that point, this will have its own project page on our website, so you can always point people to that page for them to take a look.
Good to know. Thank you.
So Sabrina, I have a couple of questions. We identify here, and in this conversation, we're talking about our strategic plan as a community-wide plan. So not just for municipal operations.
No, so it's a community feedback on the services the city provides. So it's focused on what we do as a city organization.
So it's a City of Ashland municipal strategic plan, not a community strategic plan.
Correct.
Is there a reason why we would do that? It strikes me that the City of Ashland is really the only entity that can convene a community-wide strategic plan that would include the elements that the city is not under the purview of the city, would include those items. But then out of that larger, broader community strategic plan, the city would identify the pieces that is the city's to carry. When we've talked about the strategic plan, I have always understood it to be a strategic plan like I've seen in other communities where it is the entirety of the community deciding which way to go, and then the city figures out which of those pieces are theirs. Can you help us understand why?
So I think there's an element of that, but we want to be thoughtful in that we can't force people to participate and we can't kind of make progress on areas that we don't control, right? And so it's important just to understand kind of where our lane is with this plan in terms of asking the community what they want in terms of service delivery from the city. Because if we're asking that in terms of the university or the school district, that would be straying into something that would be under their purview for a strategic plan. And so we can get feedback where, we might be, stronger ties with the school district or OSF or SOU, and we would, work with those partners to realize what that would look like if we operationalize it.
Mm-hmm. I think of things that might come up as major elements of this in terms of the goals around perhaps something like supporting a more diverse age, more age diversity in Ashland so that we have more young families. That type of a goal doesn't impinge on the authorities of anybody else in the community, but it could help to, if that were one of the things that we came out with, it could help to orient not only the city of Ashland, but also other organizations when they see this broader piece. So I think we're missing an opportunity here to have that bigger conversation.
Well, I would expect to see something like that come out of it, but in the final report, it will be what the city is going to do to move that forward, not what any of our partners are going to do to move that forward.
But the plan, when we come out with a strategic plan and it says what are we trying to accomplish, it's not going to be for the whole community. It's not going to be the whole community's goals.
Well, I think the whole community will say like we want diversity in terms of more families or something like that, and we'll take that feedback and we'll assess, well, what does that mean for the municipal organization? And it may mean changing code or putting more emphasis on recreation programs or those are just examples, but that would be something that we have control. So it might be something that other institutions can pick up and say, oh, this is a priority for the community. Is there something that we can do? But we're not going to say the school district is going to do something to address this.
No, and I would never ask that. But I think a plan needs to have the goals of the community. And then we need to figure out our piece of that. And my concern is that when I look at this, there's some timing questions that I have. The first is that we have the scope conversation that the city staff is going to do. And I think that scope conversation is maybe something that we might want to involve council leadership in. The question behind it then becomes that we have a workshop that looks to be almost entirely city people, city leadership. That to me already starts to narrow the scope. And then behind it comes the community engagement piece. And what I think is important is that we actually have community engagement that feeds into the workshop and then moves into another community engagement element, right? So it feels like the process might be narrowing initially to where we are not going to get maybe to those broad, larger goals that really include the community. Sometimes these kind of projects can end up being too baked by the time they finally have community engagement. And so that's where my concern is. I would like to see some member of council leadership involved in the leadership team of the strategic plan. Any thoughts on that, Sabrina?
Well, I feel like we should have had the kickoff meeting before we came to council, so I'd have more answers for you. I think we're talking about the same thing, right? So the first part is figuring out how we're going to do this process, who we're including, right? Because I think there's general community input, but then there's also specific invite input, right? Yes. So I don't see that we're saying different things, except I want to be very clear that the final report is action items of the city towards these broader community goals. So I just don't want that confused, I guess.
Councilor Bloom.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I agree with a lot of what you're saying. The way I see it is that we've got this one conversation about next biennium and budget and going forward. We've got a strategic plan that's looking at the next 5 and 10 years of where we want to be as a community. We've got other institutions within Ashland, whether it's Asante, whether it's SOU, the school district, OSF, that are also kind of dealing with their own situations right now, and also planning forward. And I think that what you're talking about is incredibly important. And what we really need to have is something that's looking 20 years out, right? So we're all doing our piece to look at this kind of, I guess for us in government, short term, really 10 years is short term. We need something that looks long term. And what I would like to see is I would like to see some kind of convening done from you, from the mayor, from the city, to kind of bring these groups together to have an outlook of 20 years. Where is Ashland in 20 years? And where do we want to be? And where do we all fit in to achieve that goal? And that's not something that comes together and puts together a report in a year and we put it on a shelf and say, hey, we did a great job. It's something that meets over the next 10 plus years regularly to check in, to make sure that we're all meeting kind of our objectives. And I think that that's a conversation that we really need to have, because that's, I think, a piece that we're missing. We all do our individual little bits, but then it doesn't come together in a cohesive way.
Sabrina, do you have any thoughts? I just want to make sure that you have plenty of opportunity to respond in the conversation.
Yeah, I think, in terms of this specific strategic plan, that's very different than kind of what Councilmember Bloom is talking about, because I think at this point, 20 years is kind of a big ask for a plan. And so I think, a 5 to 10 year plan for this plan, but I think, when I've done strategic plans in the past, there's always things that come out of that plan, like a working group to move things along or find the synergy between the institutions of how do we partner on this thing because we can't do it alone, or we're not the experts on this, or we shouldn't be the lead. So I think this is kind of the starting point that will help the city with the budget process and prioritizing that, but also have an opportunity for engagement with the community, because I don't think we've done that in a while in terms of priorities. And then out of that, I think we'll see things like this develop between the institutions. And in talking with the school district and SOU, they're interested in participating, but they don't want to do a strategic plan with us. They've made that very clear. And so I think part of it is we have very different missions, right? And so each plan kind of needs to speak to what that entity can do in terms of services and serving the community under the umbrella goals that the community is looking for. And so we may find that, there's an emphasis on education, and where we come in as a city is more, recreation classes that foster that kind of thing, where education would be a very different discussion for the school district or SOU. And so I think that's important to kind of keep in mind, that often a strategic plan is kind of a starting point for many of these conversations, not the final step or the answer.
Mm-hmm. And just to follow on behind that, I think for me, it's about making sure that the strategic goals that are identified are community-wide goals, which include the university, they include the school district, the goals do, the goal setting does. I think it's important that they're in those rooms and the community has multiple feedback, not just feedback, but engagement to set the focus at the front end, so that those goals are identified correctly. And then a lot of different entities will be invited to put their hand on the rope wherever they can get it, right? And to your point, I think making sure that we have an implementation structure is just good practice, and I'm sure that they're already planning to have that.
Yeah, and the planning workshop is so that city staff and council can provide the names and the organizations that we want the consultants to particularly ensure engage with us. So, if you talk to the police chief, he's gonna have a different list of people than potentially the public works director, because they have a better sense of who the community is working with, what organizations. And so that's where staff leadership comes into play. They're not setting the goals, but they're helping me and the consultants understand who they need to engage with through this process.
Mm-hmm. Councilor Duquesne?
Thank you. And something I have to agree with you, Mayor, that I believe, and Councilor Bloom touched on it too, is to be able to have the input from the community and different people, I think is so important, and something that Councilor Bloom, you mentioned, 20 years looking out. I believe that having a strategic plan and having this focus of this 10-year is important, and it doesn't go on a shelf. It becomes a living document because the times they are changing, right? And they can change sometimes on a monthly basis. So by the time this work is done in 8 months, it's not put on the shelf, and we refer to this and we pivot and we change as needed, and this becomes a living document. I think it's important that we focus on what the needs are and what we're looking at right now, working with these consultants, because next biennium, we don't want to be $30 billion in debt. So to look at what's in front of us and still project out, I feel is very important. Having our partners at the table and the community at the table is very important. I agree that this is an action item that the city is producing, and it becomes a living document, and it doesn't go on the shelf. And we look at our budget and see where we can cut and still provide the services that people are accustomed to, or what we have to pivot on.
Councillor Dale.
Thank you, Mayor. It just occurred to me, Sabrina, I'm just drawing a blank. I was just pulling up the page. Will this be, will citizens it'll probably be way too early in the process to engage as part of the formal process, but will this be brought up, at least that maybe informal questions may be asked at the town hall next month relative to this, or will this be one of the topics that will be announced by either you or the mayor, that we're just to socialize that as much as possible? I mean, I understand it's not an official, but
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to want
there?
to talk about it at the town hall. I don't know how far along we'll be. I'll have a better idea on Thursday in terms of what that engagement would look like at that event.
But we could possibly announce maybe a rough timeline so people can
Mhm.
kind of possibly think, okay,
Yeah.
March or April timeline, I should be expecting a time that we should be, I might be
Yeah, I
able to
think that's
engage, more
reasonable.
information will follow, or something like that.
I think having engagement at the town hall is probably a little early, but
Well,
in
that's what I'm
terms of
saying,
the
but I think to
timeline.
just get the word out that this
Yeah.
is coming to those that may not tune in every Tuesday night for the city attorney's 19 second readings.
We
just
got a
need
lot
to
of
get
business done tonight.
I hear you, and look at the time.
We recognize
So-
that.
Right, okay, but yeah, I just thought as many people, as much of the city and as many avenues that we can to evangelize what we're trying to do here would be a good thing.
Yeah, and I think there was some important feedback from the school district in particular, who was like, you need to set up at our events, not have your own events, right? And so I think the idea that we're just going to have like 3 town halls hosted by the city and people are going to show up is not going to work for this. And so I think it's utilizing, the events that are in place by our partners to engage with the people who are there.
Councillor Bloom.
Yeah, thank you. I agree. I mean, we need to go to ASC events. I mean, that's where a lot of young people are, young families moving in, and I think that the trend looks like we're getting more of that coming in, and that's what it's going to look like. And I would just caution that, this is going to be the unpopular thing to say, but the reality is that we're going to get feedback from a segment of the community for what Ashland should look like in 10 years. Who's not going to be here in 10 years. And we're going to have to make hard decisions about whether that feedback that we're getting is conducive with what the future of Ashland looks like for it to continue to exist the way that we love it to. So.
Councillor Hanson.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, for my 2 cents, 3 years ago, this was something that we were talking about. I'm very excited to see here right now. If you read the proposal, it says that this is an opportunity to create our community's first truly comprehensive strategic plan. That might not be true. It's definitely the first comprehensive strategic plan that I've been a part of here. And the question of what Ashland wants to be when it grows up is incredibly valid, and I'm completely open to what that looks like. Because when we come to the table to make policy decisions, we have this goal of diversification of the economy, of better education, better livability. I mean, I could go on and on. We have all these community values: wildfire, risk reduction, sustainability. But then when we go to make the policy, we oftentimes, butt heads with constituents who don't like the policy that we're doing to move us towards the things that we've said collectively, anecdotally, we want. This puts it on paper and gives stakeholders the ability to come together. And it's going to be hard to make some decisions, to make some priorities that, if we want more economic development, we're going to have to give up. If we want more, then we're going to have to give up. And that's going to be hard for certain people. And I love Ashland's participation. We've got 20,000 plus people in this town, and there's, a real vocal 100 to 1,000 on any given issue. But, we need to get this, not the special interests, but the bigger picture, the time to really galvanize what this community wants. So in the noise, we can point back to it. It's going to be worth the investment. It's expensive, and it's going to take human capital to come together and make this. But especially for future councils to be able to have this and point to it, 5-10 years is where we're going to be doing our work. 20 years, sure, that sounds great. But I can't remember what I was doing 20 years ago relative to what we're doing now. So again, but the ones that we've chose as consultants group has a list of accomplishments that is too long to start diving into, but this clearly is their bread and butter, and they are Oregonians through and through. So I trust staff that we picked a good one, and I'm looking forward to rolling up my sleeves, and I hope everybody else does with an open mind, because we're going to have to give in on some of our things our neighbors want that maybe aren't in our best interest, we think, but is better for the whole community.
Any other thoughts or questions? So there was a little bit of a conversation earlier about some amount of council leadership being involved with city staff in this process. How would you think that could work best, Sabrina, if the council decides that they would like that?
So your list, are you talking about the strategic planning workshop? Because city council is listed in that as
No, I'm talking
participating.
about the project team, the one that's
for phase one.
Yeah,
For
the
scoping and
phase
planning?
one, and that will continue to be operating. The project team is going to operate all the way through.
I mean, I'll have to think about that because council will eventually need to vote on the plan. And so I don't want it to appear that, something's been hijacked, right? Where staff is kind of the people just pushing it forward. Council has to make that final decision. So I'll have to think about the best way to incorporate council in there. And are you thinking 1, 2?
Thoughts?
3. Keep it just under a quorum.
Are there thoughts? So we have 3,
I'm fine with 2 or 3, that's fine.
2 or 3. Councilor Sherrill, do you have any opinion about that?
2 or 3 sounds fine.
Yeah. 2 or 3. So I'll need to speak to the consultants about what they've
looks like.
seen with that and their
Yeah.
recommendation.
Yeah, that would be great. Okay, so before we move on from this conversation, I have had people reach out to me and with some confusion about something in the community called Ashland Project 2030, or is that what it's called? Yeah, Ashland 2030 project, wondering if that's the strategic planning process that we're putting forward. And just wanted to clarify that the council has been moving forward with putting this in place. It's likely that our strategic plan will end up being called Ashland 20-something, because they often are, depending on how far out you put them, it typically is a response. And so that is something that's different, I understand. Councilor Bloom, if you wanted to speak to that at all. But that is not the strategic plan. We don't have a name for it yet. We will get that name out there as soon as the consultants get started. And that I think a lot of the conversations around that project are really looking at many of the things that the council has already put in motion and is looking to take on over the next couple of years. So just in case there's any confusion out there, this is the strategic planning process that we have moving forward and that we've put in place a while ago. And just for a little bit of historical context, in February of 2020, we were about to start our strategic planning process. and then March happened. Little something happened. And so this process of having a strategic plan to guide the work of the city and to guide the work of other local community anchor organizations is a really important piece. And it has been difficult without that to figure out what are we really working towards? And I think we do have a lot of shared values, but this process is going to be particularly helpful. So any other thoughts before we move on? Okay, so we are now to the city manager report.
Specifically the look ahead.
Pardon me?
Specifically the look ahead.
Look ahead's in your agenda. One thing of note, we are expecting some high winds later in the week. So just a reminder, we have C-Click Fix for the community. So if you're seeing large down limbs or anything like that, you can always report it in there. And so we have our new and improved look ahead for 2026. And so you'll see our study sessions are full up pretty much through May almost. So in it to win it, the first of the year for what we're doing there. And then we are starting to add for our first meeting in January. So that's happening, but now we're just looking forward to getting to Christmas. So I don't have anything beyond that unless there's any questions.
Okay, any other questions? So one of the things that we do at the close of the year and the opening of the new year is we take up the question of city council liaison assignments. And one of you each have a sheet here. We're going to, when we're done with this conversation, I'll open it up for any reports from liaisons. But wanted to have this conversation to find out if there's any feedback around the structure of the liaison appointments. Some of our councils or our committees have 2 assignments. We have 2 different liaisons working with them. I'd like to find out if there's any thoughts about that structure. And then last year, we also put in addition to the regional boards and committees, we put in a number of community organizations, and we assigned liaisons to those organizations for the upcoming year. So if there is any feedback about that list of organizations or about the structure of the liaison appointment process, please, this is a good time to have it. You can also reach out to me later if you think about something else that you would like to see changed. And then what I will ask each counselor to do is to look at this list. It's good to take this list home. Look at this list and let me know what you are most interested in serving on, giving me at least 5 options in your order of preference. And then I will go through a process and do my very best to get counselors assigned to the places that are the most important to them. So if there's any feedback now about the liaison process, I'm happy to hear it. Otherwise, please feel free to reach out. Okay, very good. So now we are to liaison report outs. Anyone want to share as they're coming to the end of the year? Councilor Duquesne?
I was just going to say something that I think we all saw yesterday is that we need more committee members. And I don't know how to go out and get additional committee members. And I think the resistance is so what does that look like? You know, what is that? How much time? What does it look like? It's, you know, people are like, God, on council, you have to read all this. It's not like that on committees. Not unless it's the planning commission. But I just want people to feel free to reach out to any of us. I'm throwing all of you guys out there. If you want to be on a committee, ask and we'll tell you. And then I also want people to know on the Social Equity and Racial Justice Committee, some people think you have to be black or brown. You don't. We have many members who are not. Councilor Dale can attest to that. And so it's a social equity, and we all live here together. So I invite everyone to ask questions and join a committee. It's fun, right, guys?
Yeah.
Sabrina?
And I just want to say the city recorder, so Alyssa updated our council commissions and committee page, and so there's kind of a step-by-step, if you're interested in serving, information and how you can learn more about each committee and the process. So you can always point people to that as well if they're interested, and that can maybe help them navigate whether or not they'd like to serve.
Yes, that's another place where the staff's work to streamline city processes has really helped people step forward and offer their service. Any other reports from liaisons? I would just add that the Public Safety Coordinating Council had their end-of-year meeting in November, and we heard the end-of-year reports from a variety of local social services providers and from Judge Cromwell. And there is so much good work being done in our valley, and also so much that is still needed. There's such a gap. And I'm looking forward to seeing where that leads us in the new year as we take up different efforts. The funding crunch, certainly, that is coming from the federal government, we're seeing it start to arrive in some of the places that need more funding. But there's a dedicated group of people working to address a lot of those issues. And so it's a good place, I think, for us to be, and for other folks who are working on these issues in the valley. So I appreciate being able to be part of that. And I would just follow on behind Councillor Duquesne's very timely message about coming forward to volunteer. Anyone who didn't see the study session last night, that is a good place to go online and watch the video, because you get to see what each of the committees has accomplished and what they have in store for the new year. And so if you're interested in serving, you can look at that and see what is of most interest to you. And that should probably close us out if there are no more liaison reports. Councillor Kaplan.
Yeah, I thinking of liaison reports for the committees, but I think the last couple of meetings were really about preparing for that meeting last night, so there wasn't much to report because they reported it yesterday. But I should say that the Continuum of Care, I'm the liaison to the Jackson County Continuum of Care, and there's been, there's monthly meetings of that as well, of the board of the Continuum of Care. It's been a bit of a stop-go kind of thing, because the Continuum of Care, as you may know, is both a funding mechanism for federal funds and a coordinating kind of body for a lot of social service agencies on issues of housing and homelessness. The stop-go part was the federal government portion of it, where there was supposed to be a release of the request for proposals that they fund. And it came out with a very short deadline, and then all of a sudden it was stopped and said they wanted to make some changes, and there may be it may come out again or it may not, and it's very fuzzy. So Access is the lead agency on that. There's a board of the Continuum of Care. They're watching it to see, what resources will be available. In the past, it has been prioritizing continuing of the kinds of funding that we have sought before. That seems to be thrown out at this point. The thing that Jackson County had prioritized was making sure that there's keeping people rapid rehousing, and that is not a priority right now for the federal government. So they were asking for folks to pivot to other things. So I don't really have a whole lot to say about it, other than that there's a lot of uncertainty in that you can probably imagine. With respect to the other piece of the Continuum of Care, which is talking among the different organizations, nonprofit organizations in other cities, we're working on a strategic communications plan with the assistance of a filmmaker to do some public spots, and we're still looking for people. We've had a set of questionnaires that people filled out, and they're getting ready to send that out to elected officials, really focus on elected officials rather than on a broader array of community members, to see how elected officials in the city and all the cities in the valley are thinking about homelessness issues and how we address them. So that should be coming. I'll send you a link when we get it.
Great. All right. If there are no further liaison appointment items, the floor is open for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Meeting is adjourned. Happy holidays.